Hey guys, it's Tombox here. Welcome to MST.TV, and in this video we're going to do an April 29th, 2019 ban list breakdown. We're going to look at how the decks were affected, which decks are moving forward, and how they're going to adapt to new styles of play and what kind of plays that they lost, what you need to be concerned about and what you don't need to be concerned about anymore. So, if you guys are going to enjoy that, don't forget to smash that like button, check out the subscribe, and huge shout out to you patrons. If you guys have seen the newest artwork, blah 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 blah. Let's just get into this video instead. So, looking at the ban list, just a quick recap. We have Summon Sorcerers getting banned, as well as Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon, Phantom Night Magic launch. As for stuff getting limited, we have Lady Debug, Phantom Sky Blaster, and Kagari, and finally Super Poly went to 2, and Miscellaneous Source went to 3. This is a very small ban list. Seems like they are feeding us in small chunks now. But this is also going to be the ones that you're going to be playing at WCQ. So, might as well get your practice in now, boys! Okay, so, let's look into some of the decks that were hit. Let's kick things off with Sky Strikers. Now, Sky Strikers, there's two types of Sky Striker player. There are the types that believe Kagari is the broken card, and then there's also the ones that believe multi-roll is the broken card. So now you get to prove whether or not your theory is correct, where because of 3 multi-rolls, we are still going to see Sky Striker pretty much alive and strong. But there are some key differences. I know OCG was able to play with 1 Kagari for the longest time, and to them, they have other cards that fix their deck that we don't have access to in TCG. But let's look at the breakdown first. So first of all, we have 3 multi-rolls still available to all of us to play, so you guys can test your theory right there. 3 engages still there, so we have one of the most consistent decks. I guess you get your triple pot of greed still there, so woohoo. 1 Kagari, yes, it does hurt, but you can shove in more Kainas in there, and you're going to use more extra deck utility monsters to achieve your win condition. You're just not going to have Kagari to beat stuff down for free. You still have Shizuku, which kind of does the same thing in terms of trying to remove monsters on board because their stat lines are technically the same. One reduces, one increases, but overall the amount of damage whenever you attack is about the same. So that's mainly, of course, not attacking directly, but attacking a monster. So in terms of that doesn't change too much in that dynamic. However, in terms of things that kind of suck for the deck now, it is extremely susceptible to DD Crow. Well, if you get your Kagari DD Crow, you're never going to have access to it ever again, unless you find some way to revive the Kagari. Yeah, that means your deck is a lot less consistent for sure. Now, the mid-game management is a lot harder now. After you use your first turn, if you burn the Kagari, are you going to recycle Kagari right away? Which means you have to use Hercules base. And if you use Hercules base so early, does that make your game a lot more predictable? Are you digging that card out as soon as you can? Are you going to run more copies of it? I know that Hercules base now is a bit of a standard to play against, say, Salamangreats, because you can burn off their Baylings. Well, now you have to think about what you're really going to do now. So the mid-game management, basically you jump into the point of the game where immediately your extra deck does not have any other copies of Kagari. So yeah, you're going to have to change your playstyle a bit. Are you going to adapt to your deck building as well? We'll see. Of course, with that being said, that makes the game a lot less grindy. As a player that's playing against Sky Strikers a lot, you would say that one of your key goals in the game is to get to the point where they burn all the Kagari so that their resources are no longer quote-unquote infinite. Well, it seems like they have infinite resources because Kagari lets to recycle. There's multi-roll that lets them recycle, like permanently recycle. Seems like Kagari is like a gas station where you can refill every time, but then if they use multi-roll, it's like they're actually using gas out of the gas tank now, and they can burn out. So they will burn out a lot faster, which makes the game a lot less grindy. Maybe you'll go into time a lot less because, oh my god, they still have another Kagari to go into the Hercules base and recycle everything. Well, now they have to recycle a lot sooner. Now, in terms of readapting, now some people have mentioned they can use Magnetic Reverse to revive Kagari. Sure, it summons into the main monster zone, but then you'll get to retrieve like an engage from there. I think OCG at one point did it. And then they just link it off into Hayate or Shizuku, which then allows them to use the Hercules base a little bit later. That's a possibility that we might see, so that the deck is still very much alive. I think it's actually not that bad, because I believe Magnetic Reverse is a quick play spell, so it can even be used to block off DD Crow. So and of course, it's also a spell card, so it fuels towards the Sky Striker 3 card in the graveyard to get the second effects. So there's a lot of stuff going there. Hercules base, probably going to see more play now. If you didn't play Hercules base before, you're probably going to play a lot more of it now. And then there's Pot of Avarice. We don't have this card. In OCG, according to what Oscar told me, whenever he activates Pot of Avarice and they have 3 copies of it, what would happen is like, oh, they get 1 Kagari, 1 Shizuku, 1 Hayate, put those 3 back along with a Maxi and an Ash Blossom, and there you go, draw 2 cards, and you just call that a day. It's literally Pot of Greed for them. Yeah, so in other words, they don't mind burning through their extra deck so quickly because it just recycles itself constantly. We don't have that option, so we'll see how that goes. And does it shorten the lifespan of this deck? Is it going to fall off the top tier? Personally, I don't think so. I think it's still a very strong contender. Now, what does this mean for this deck in particular? Now, you're going to have to learn how to break boards faster, and you need to get to your win con faster before you burn out, because if you burn out, basically you have a bit of a reload phase in the deck now that doesn't happen all in the same turn, and hand traps hurt a lot more. So overall, I think it might knock this deck off of the highest tier possible, where it's going to be as consistent as it is now, but it's definitely going to be in the top cut. Danger Thunder Dragon. This is the deck I personally play. I've been looking into it. I played all the variants, and this is kind of what I came up with at this point. I personally favored Fazil Khan's build, so in terms of Phantom Sky Blaster, that card did not affect me whatsoever since I didn't even play it anymore. But looking at the deck now, we have Summon Sorceress. That is a huge hit. We have Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon, Phantom Sky Blaster, and Super Poly. Super Poly wasn't exactly a deck we made because we played Sega's Light. However, people using Super Poly against us was one of the best ways to break our boards. It's just a fact. So, now looking into here, we have Summon Sork. What did we lose from Summon Sork? Well, Chaos Dragon Levianeer play the Battery Man White Dragon combo. Often we went into Summon Sork. If they have no hand traps, it was basically automatic GG. You get the full board of negations, and you can even stop at the evenly match or whatever they throw at us. Even if you throw a sphere mode at us, we would still have enough bodies to deal with the remainder. So overall, losing Summon Sork does hurt a lot, so we can't just summon out Eclipse Wyvern by pointing a dragon to it. That is one of the biggest loss, I would say, in this particular deck. You can still technically do the combo, but it will cost you a lot more extenders, like danger monsters, and you gotta get lucky with your ditches. However, the Battery Man White Dragon combo, although it has been weakened, it is still there. It is very much possible because you can go into Saryuja right away. And once you go into that Saryuja, you can still get the Guard Dragon, especially with the Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. That card changes the game up quite a bit, and that's also a form of interruption in the deck. So we're going to probably see the Danger Thunder Dragon deck move in that direction instead. So Triple Colossus Extension is probably not going to be a play available to us anymore because of the fact we don't have the Summon Sork to kind of bring out a free dragon. It is what it is. I'm going to accept it. And then, of course, the Weakened Battery Man White Dragon combo. Would you not play the Battery Man White Dragon combo? No, I'd still play it because it is still ridiculously strong, and because of how flexible and because of the high skill ceiling of how you can mix and match your combo, it's still going to be live. As for the Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon, I'm kind of glad that this is gone. I really didn't like this particular combo in particular. I get that it was very strong and it removed a lot of the counterplay issues. I get that, yeah, the only out against the full combo is to sphere mode the problems away. But with this card gone, it reopens up the counterplay, and I know that Konami hates it when we can't counter something simply because the counter got countered already. The counter countered. And yeah, that part really sucks. So putting that out, that means that your opponent cannot use Super Poly. I guess they're really trying to push for that Super Poly counterplay available for everyone to deal with Thunder Dragons, and making Super Poly like a potential more consistent card. Well, yeah, well, we're gonna see our boards get broken a little bit more often, and they're gonna put out something pretty big. Now, that being said, is Goliath not going to see play anymore? That is not true. You're probably going to still see some Goliath in there. Or maybe Lechery, not Lechery, but Sloth. Just because you can summon it out with the Sphere. So with the Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, you can still summon that out straight from the deck and still lock your opponent out after bouncing one of their face-up cards. Yeah, so does this matter as much? I guess Dark Matter don't matter as much anymore. So then we have a Phantom Sky Blaster. Yeah, it was a normal summon card. Yes, this card did go to 1, so in other words, it's now a SAC card. You still have quick access to Saryuja, but you might see more Armageddon Knight and more Dark Grepher plays shoved into the deck to replace that particular slot. This is similar to what Fazil Khan did, and I tried his build out. I really like his build, but you might also see more people playing Defrag Dragon, just because it helps you get to that point where you get to extend into the Guard Dragon combo. So that's still there. And of course, if you get Super Poly, that's one card that does affect us. Yeah, because if you put out a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend and you have a Thunder Dragon Colossus with another card on board, it doesn't really matter what that other card is, because you take away the Colossus and you take away any of the big beaters, really, you get to well, crush your opponent, because you're going to summon out a Starving Venom onto the Saryuja point, which will boost it to 31, which is technically more powerful than most of the other monsters available. And if you remove that Starving Venom, it'll blow up all the monsters. So that would be the major changes. Overall, if there's a thing called Slap on the Wrist, this would be it, because you took away our biggest, most free combo, most broken thing, but the deck still remains super consistent and the playstyle did not change very much. As for the deck that kind of came out on top, we have Salamangreats. Salamangreats, if anything, this list kind of boosted them. When you weaken everything else, some things will come back up, and I feel like, sure, they may have lost, well, Lady Debug. They lost 2 copies of it, now it's down to 1, but some of them didn't even run Lady Debug, some preferred like Flame Buffalo. And of course, there's Signet Mining coming out that clearly just replaces the slot of Lady Debug. It doesn't seem like much has changed. The consistency after Dark Neostorm is going to be the same, in my opinion. Not too much change. In fact, there's some pluses to this. First of all, Lady Debug was an ogre target. In other words, you're less likely to end your turn because your opponent just ogred you and called it a day. And that overall just makes the deck play safer to hand traps. So they might have just banned the thing that caused you to lose the ogre. Okay. Overall, nothing much. You still have 3 Gazelles, 3 Spinnies, 3 Sunlight Wolves, and so in other words, this list might still be a plus to you, and you have Super Poly that you can now main deck as well. So, you know, go figure. Alright, Orkest and Azathoth. So any deck that ran Azathoth, let's just say it applies to you as well. But in terms of what we got hit by, Summon Sork was a major loss because we can't use the wand anymore as easily. The whole Summon Sork part of the combo was mainly just an additional extender to put that wand in the graveyard, which gave you, well, 2 monsters technically. You summon out the wand and the wand summon out another monster. So that was an easy plus that's completely kind of thrown out the window now, and going into the Link 4, not as easy anymore. That's just a fact. So does that mean the deck is dead? No, I think you should run more copies of Bardiche to replace it, because Bardiche combo is going to be very key. You might even run triple Fogblade if you're really going in that direction, especially if you're going to be going first. It doesn't seem like it's that bad of a combo anymore, and you still have rank 4 plays still available because you can still use the Shade Brigadine to actually summon it out. But in terms of what you lost, you can't summon out the wand anymore with the Galatea combo, so in other words, that extension is gone, and because of that, you don't generate that free +2 advantage along the way, and you're going to need to find some other way to shove that wand into the graveyard, or if the wand is even viable anymore. You're going to have to put some thought into that, which means Dark Refer and Armageddon Knight are likely going to see more play. Also because, well, the Phantom Sky Blaster kind of got limited. Then we have the Rank of Magic. The engine of Phantom Knights is still very much live, and I think these 2 decks still synergize together very well, because the Dingirsu, which is coming out in Dark Neostorm, and Bardiche, they are like a match made in heaven. They're bread and butter, peanut butter and jelly. Because if you summon it onto the arrow by using, say, Symbol Skeleton, revive onto the arrow of Bardiche, both of them will trigger, and therefore it's going to pop a card and send the card on the field to the graveyard. That is just, this is just gonna happen. Or if Dingirsu decide to be like, oh, I don't need to pop something, I just need 1 pop, then I'm just going to put Chainlink 1 on the Bardiche to pop. Chainlink 2 will be the Dingirsu putting the Symbol Skeleton back onto itself, and then being able to protect the board after. And you still get that counter trap later on anyway, so overall it's still going to be a very strong contender. I don't think it knocks it out of the top tier category for sure. I think you're going to see a lot of play. I think it's going to happen. And that counter trap, we all know, is pretty damn good, because it banishes whatever it negates, and it's a searchable by Galatea. So you guys let me know what you think about this deck. Of course, with the Phantom Sky Blaster being hit, the Mermaid combo, sure, a little less consistent, but we all know that a lot of 1-card combos are available for that. So just readapt. You can even use Salamangreats to do it. That's the funny part, because you can just go ahead and summon out a Gazelle, dump a Spinny, summon out the Spinny, and then you go ahead and go into a Nightmare Phoenix, and then you go into Nightmare. So in other words, you can even fake out and just go into the same play. Regardless, it's just really easy to go into that Mermaid. And yeah, so that deck is still very much live. As for counterplay, it's kind of funny because Super Poly is such a good counter to it, because you can go into if they try to nuke your board or whatever with the Dingirsu plus the Bardiche, you just play Super Poly and just like use them both as material. Since they're both dark, you send them both out, and then you get yourself Starving Venom. And then because they both technically triggered, so you had the Super Poly set, since those cards are going to trigger and send your cards to the graveyard, they're gonna have to send that Starving Venom Dragon to the grave anyway. And this is the last deck I kind of want to talk about before I jump ship to talk about stuff that weren't hit on the list, and then of course the top decks moving forward. So True King Dinosaur / Chaos Dinosaurs, this is the true winner of this ban list because they got Miscellaneousaurus back to 3. I personally played the Dinosaur Thunder Dragons beforehand, before I switched to Danger, and let me tell you, it was very fun playing with UCT. But UCT was one of his biggest weakness was that he got answered during the main phase, and there's nothing I could really do about it. And Protection with Miscellaneousaurus was like a bit of a sacky card because you just couldn't really get access to it. But now, if you have both Fossil Dig and you have Oviraptor, you know your plays are going to extend a lot further, and it's gonna be great. It's actually gonna be really fun for you. And yeah, the pill, you can banish the Giant Rex, or if you already have a Giant Rex, well, you get access to it with the baby dinosaurs. I think dinosaurs are going to have a field day with this. So UCT is going to break your board, and it's going to be protected. Trishula plays are going to be a bit more consistent because you're going to have access to this card, and you can go into Dracayolo, and if you're playing True Kings, just do your thing. I don't see why you wouldn't do your thing. And then you go into VFD, and VFD is a complete knockout, just like Azathoth versus any monster-based matchup. There's no real negatives to this card. It's gonna be interesting to see people try out different dinosaur builds, like Lost World Dinosaur, Shaddoll Dinosaur, Thunder Dragon Dinosaur, True King Dinosaurs, and perhaps even a Chaos Dragon Dinosaur. I think it's possible. This is just like a theory crafting. I was like, whoa, what if I just shove an Eclipse Wyvern into the graveyard? Like, I just ditch it for a cost of, like, say, a Nightmare package or whatever, just ditch it, and then all of a sudden I play the pill, banish it, and the Giant Rex, adding Chaos Dragon Levineer back to my hand, and proceed to combo from that point forward. There seems to be a lot of potential with that, so I'm just going to explore that and see if there's going to be a Chaos Dragon Dinosaur build where I can end on the board with, like, Lagia, with, I don't know, like the Oviraptor, and not Oviraptor, but the Quatless or whatever her name is. Yeah, anyways, that's what I think. I think there's a lot of potential with the dinosaur stuff, thanks to, well, one card coming back. Okay guys, so for the stuff that weren't hit, we have a Thunder Dragon Colossus, any of the danger cards that you deem to be a problem, and there was Saryuja, the card that everyone thought was getting hit, and it went as low as $23 at one point, and now it's starting to climb back up. It's like $31 as of the making of this video. I'm pretty sure it's just gonna go back higher now that people know, hey, I can still play this card at 3, and I am going to play it at 3. There are decks that can abuse it, and they are going to abuse it. I honestly thought that this was going to be a goner for sure. I was like going to sell one of mine, but then I failed to sell it, so now I got to keep it. Good for me, I guess. But Thunder Dragon Colossus, I honestly thought that card was also going to take a hit, just because it's quite a degenerate card, because it doesn't let people search. And it seems like if this card exists, people won't be able to search. In other words, deck building will require people to answer Thunder Dragon Colossus by either turning it off or removing it off the board some way or form. It's still live. In other words, it's going to be one of the more difficult boss monsters for people to remove now in a simplified game state. In a simplified game state, he is one of the hardest creatures to kill. So, and then as for the Danger Engine, what do you guys think about them leaving the Danger Engine intact? Do you think that they're going to need OCG to release the stuff first before they kill it? Or are they going to kill it off early? And are dangers even a problem? I know that it's two-sided, it's like two-sided here. Either everyone thinks it's a completely broken engine and it ruined Yu-Gi-Oh, or it somehow made Yu-Gi-Oh more fair and you can play out of certain locks and you don't have to deal with certain hand traps. Let me know what you guys think about Danger still being alive, but that is something that everyone's gonna need to learn how to deal with for WCQ. Now let's look into the decks moving forward. Or for decks moving forward, I kind of split it into two categories, but they're kind of the same. One is just a bit more defined versus the high potential stuff down here. They're not as defined just yet, but I think they are going to be strong contenders moving forward as well, and they could very much be top tier contenders as well. We'll see once we get more tournament results, and then this whole thing will shift around. But for the more defined stuff at top potential decks, we have Thunder Dragon, Danger Thunder Dragon. They are still very strong. They lost very much, little to nothing. Sure, they lost Summon Sword combo, which means the Battery Man plus White Dragon combo is not as strong, but a lot of people saw that as a liability, and they don't even go into that combo just because they don't want to eat the Ogre, they don't want to eat the Ash, which would make them lose like 3 or 4 materials worth of monsters. So we just play a lot safer when we get into the same boards, just costing a bit more in terms of the hand. But overall, the board that we set up, kind of the same with Saryuja untouched. That's why we're still able to do it. Then we have the Orkest. I still think is very strong, even though they lost the Azathoth combo. Moving in, we get the Dingirsu and the counter trap. With Dingirsu counter trap and with the Bardiche, the Phantom Knight package is still there. It's more of a control deck now rather than like a quick OTK, although the aggression level is still up there. Dingirsu is just so powerful with the Bardiche, which lets you kind of get a double removal when you revive it. That is a very, very solid play, and with the counter trap, it makes it so that Salamangrates, they can't just go activate like any Gazelle at any point, because if it gets banished, well, that's the end of that Gazelle, and yeah, you can't use another copy of it for the rest of the turn, which is very painful, and you can't really retrieve the card as well once it's banished. So that's why I think they have strong potential and top tier potential, to be honest. It's just that the whole package is still very strong. Sure, they don't have that lockout, but they can banish a card and remove 2 threats, which is only cost them 2 cards. So it's a plus at the end, and Dingirsu can protect the rest of the board. So I'm kind of curious of what kind of reviver that they're going to play just to leave the counter trap live. But anyways, the other card, or the end of the deck, we got Salamangrates. They didn't get touched. They lost like what, 2 Lady Debugs. Some people didn't even play 3. Some people just played like 2. Some people played 1. So no big change, and they added consistency card to replace it. Signet Mining, or you can play Flamer Buffalo. Not that much of a change at all. It seems like the deck is just as consistent, and it's a slap on the wrist. But the deck that didn't get touched at all is Crusadia Guard Dragon. I did not talk about it during the earlier parts of the video just because they didn't get affected at all. They set up the nastiest boards out there. It almost feels like Danger Thunder Dragon boards when they finish. I guess Danger Thunder Dragon board has better like recursion, better fix up later on. But the boards that set up lock you out of the extra deck, has like 2 or 3 negations on the board, and you're just sitting there watching it happen. And it is very hard to break through, and they have like quick insta-kill combos which can easily OTK you without committing into one side or the other side of the engine. With the Guard Dragon package, you're just gonna summon out the Red MD, you're gonna summon out the guy from the extra deck, you're just locking your opponent out on the very first turn, and it's a 2-card combo. And speaking of 2-card combos, the Endymion stuff, the Pendulums, they are 2-card combo. I played with it this past weekend. It is ridiculously easy to set this stuff up. You can eat a hand trap or 2 thanks to well, the one hand trap you can't eat is Jerome Lockbird. That one sucks to eat. But for anything else, you don't really care as much, and you can just spam the board with a bunch of negations, and those negations, depending on which variant you play Pendulum Magician, you get that Pendulum negation board. You play Zephyr build, you get that Zephyr counter trap plus the Pendulum negation board. Or if you just play the regular Endymion stuff, this was technically the counter to Sky Striker. It was like an easy counter to Sky Striker, but it seems like Sky Strikers are going to hate this matchup even more because they can't grind it out. Yeah, the Endymion is just very fun. Very consistent stuff. Very fun. But of course, you have to worry about the hand traps of Ghost Ogre. I think Ghost Ogre is probably one of the best hand traps in this coming format. And then look at the high potential stuff. They potentially can be up there as well, depending on like after we see some tournament results. But we have Kagari or Sky Striker. I think what's gonna happen is this. You're gonna see a bunch of Sky Striker players just drop off because they just don't like playing just with Wooden Kagari. They don't like to grind it out. But you're gonna see some players that are gonna grind it out, and they're gonna find some ways to readapt. The reason why it's high potential is because I don't know how people are going to adapt to it without Pot of Avarice. Are people just going to play Magnetic Reverse or some other ways to revive this machine lady? I really don't know. You maybe even play Monster Reborn to bring her back. I don't see how it's going to be like that difficult to deal with this deck just because it's a lot less grindy, and the grind was what made this deck, one of the features of the decks, super strong. So we'll see how that redefines. And then we have True Draco. They're kind of like the anti-meta of the format. They have the most amount of skill drains. They block you out of effects, and a lot of the decks up there rely on effects. And yeah, that's gonna be a thing, I guess. It's one of the top tier anti-meta decks. I think dinosaurs are going to make a resurgence, and that's why I have them as high potential, because we really just don't know. But I know that UCT, that's not affected by any card effects, is going to break any board. And since we don't play a lot of back row these days, if you're protected from all card effects, you can't be negated, so you can just book everything down. And when you go into the battle phase, at the start of the damage step, you can just punch through everything and you'll be fine. It's quite silly. I guess there's still Boral Sword, which you can't really kill, but Boral Sword, do you leave yourself with a Boral Sword or Boral Load? You gotta think about that. I guess Boral Load is kind of like you can trade 1-for-1 for it, because you can just crash into it because you'll lower it by 500 and that would make it a crash. And lots to think about there. Then there's Trick Stars with Drone Lockbird. I think Drone Lockbird is one of these. Well, it's a decent hand trap. I just don't want to neglect the Candina and the whatever play that you can do with Candina. I guess we have more ways to extend with Trickstar. They haven't really been seeing too many tops as of late, but they are high potential. They're kind of the same as like Altergeist. Altergeist, they kind of fit at the same level right now, which is very strange to say. And the other top contender, of course, is Subterror. I hate playing against this deck. So many negations. It's the count anti-meta of the format. Like, Subterror, like Fiendus, just negates everything, and it's just really annoying. But these are the decks I think are moving forward, but they have the highest chance to top. And that is all I got for this video, guys. What other decks do you think has a high potential? Leave it down in the comments section. Are there any things I didn't cover, or any ways to recover play that I didn't cover? I would also like to know what you guys think. This is a long video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And now I gotta work on the other super long video of full set analysis Dark Neostorm. Dark Neostorm. How did I get these? Well, these will be opened later on anyway. So until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Hit the like button, hit me a subscribe, hit the notification bell. Stay tuned for the Dark Neostorm potential. Well, the full set analysis, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job. And you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.